Welcome back. This is the Baseball Show. I'm Andy Singleton. You're watching Nickel Press TV. It is mid-December. We're getting ready for Christmas. We're getting ready for possibly in New England. Hurts me to say this, but I'm sure Ralph will get joy. The Red Sox, second team. We're taking a look at their offseason moves. They are primed and poised for a successful season. I'll leave it at that. But Ralph, why don't you go ahead and fill everybody in on what your team has done so far this year?
Sure. So first off, I'm going to say it's another time where they've won the offseason so far. The biggest move they've obviously made was they traded super prospect, number one prospect, probably in fantasy baseball, real baseball as well, Yohan Moncada with fireballer Michael Kopech. Obviously was a guy that had been rumored to hit 105 last year on the radar gun. Don't know if I believe that. As well as Luis Alexander Basabe and another Victor Diaz, another relief pitcher, for Chris Sale, left-hand pitcher. They're bringing another starter. They're going to pair him up with Price. So now that Price doesn't have to have all the pressure on him of being the go-to ace. So I guess he sort of slides into that number two role. That means that, as Tehol would call him, the fraudulent Cy Young winner, Rick Porcello, slides into that three. So now they've fixed and fortified one of their major weaknesses, which was the front end of that rotation. They don't get a guy that has playoff experience, but the thing is with Sale, I think he's fiery enough, nasty enough. He wants to win. He hasn't been. I think he's yearning for that winning environment. I think they have an opportunity to do that now. Going on to the other moves they made, they traded Travis Shaw as well as a pretty good prospect, Mauricio Dubon, favorite of mine actually from the Red Sox farm system, underrated middle infield prospect, and Travis Shaw, and they got Tyler Thornburg. So they were to sort of fortify the back end of that bullpen. They now have an eighth inning guy that I think may even be a better reliever, if you ask me, than Craig Kimbrell in terms of consistency from day to day. They also added Mitch Moreland to replace Travis Shaw. I like that move, left-handed bat to replace Shaw, probably a better left-handed bat, and he's a Gold Glove first baseman. So I don't know if that means that Hanley's going to move to DH, but so far they've won the offseason. Let's hope it's not a repeat of 2011 where they win the offseason and then they end up, faltering at the end.
I'm surprised you said they signed Moreland to replace Shaw, because as I text you, Mitch Moreland to replace Big Papi, that's a huge loss in any lineup, especially this Boston lineup. How much does that affect them? Tehol, are you worried about this Boston team? Is this just another looks good on paper championship, or is this
no, I don't think so.
Solidified roster.
Right, yeah, it's pretty filthy. Yeah, I mean, Ralph, who is just, nonstop claiming Porcello is God's gift to the human race, is not even calling him their number one. He's saying David Price is the number one, yet he's saying Porcello is the best pitcher in baseball. So why is David Price the number one pitcher? Anyway, Sale's immediately better than both of those guys. Price, I'm a little concerned about Price going forward, truly. It's really, really awkward. But yeah, the outfield now is just filthy. All those young dudes are in their absolute peak. Mookie Betts is one of the best players I've ever seen. He's like, 23 years old or something. Mm-hmm. Bogarts is nearing what I was hoping for him a couple years ago. It looks like he's there pretty much. Maybe the power even come up a little bit for them. Benintendi or what, he's up. All these dudes are up. I mean, obviously Papi is a huge loss, but I mean, these young dudes, they are loaded up. I mean, that Mercado guy kind of sucks to lose him, but other than that, they're still just loaded. The lineup's going to be filthy. I love the Moreland pickup. I like getting rid of Shaw. They got the Mariners reliever they traded for last year who missed all year. He's back. They are loaded. The bullpen is the Thornburg. I love him. He saved me in fantasy last year. Thornburg now. And then Carson, and then Kimber. They're loaded. They got to be. They're by far the favorites, and it's not even close in my opinion.
Does Jackie Bradley regress, or does he stay at the same level we saw last year?
Probably about the same overall level, I would guess. I know his numbers are insane at the beginning, but he kind of totally leveled off there. So that's usually kind of close to where he ends, right? Or was it still way better? I don't remember what his final stats were, but he'll probably be. I think he's a pretty solid player. I think he'll be fine. Ralph would probably have a better answer. He supposedly lives there.
Well, I'm curious what your thoughts are on their farm system now, because as Tehol was just mentioning, a lot of their younger guys are already up, and they have traded some of their bigger names and pieces away. Both, you just mentioned in Kopech and in Moncada. So what's left in the system, and is it as strong as it's been for the last 5+ years, or is it significantly weakened now? But it doesn't really matter because they pretty much have all the pieces they're going to need for the next 5 years to compete.
Yeah, I think it's obviously weakened. There's no way that you can argue that it isn't. Sort of talking to folks around here, friends of mine who are, fellow sort of prospect files like I am, and also Red Sox fans, there are some that are sort of overreacting, saying it's a bottom 10 system. I don't think it is. I think it slid from probably being a top 2 or 3 system. It certainly wasn't as deep as the Astros system is still. But it was in that top 5 easily. They had very high-end prospects. Benintendi's still under his limit. So technically, you can still consider Benintendi. They still have Jason Groom. They have some players besides Groom that they added this year in the draft that I think are good, fantasy guys like, Bobby Dahlback.
Chavez, they got Akami. They still have some.
Akami's they have, they still have plenty of talent throughout that, and they churn out some players. They have some sort of, lower minors guys that are a little bit under the radar as well. A guy like C.J. Chatham, who's a very solid player. Another guy, Tyler Hill, who's a very solid player. So I think the depth is there. They had a good draft. The thing that's going to hurt them a little bit is they've been out of the international market for 2 years now. They hit the Moncada signing, so obviously that pushed them past their limits. They had a bit of a scandal with a bunch of players they signed when they were only limited to, I think, $100,000 per player contracts and some sharing and some stuff. So they had 10 contracts that were voided from the previous 2015 J2 period, which I think really hurt them. So there's some other stuff in the background besides just Dombrowski making these trades. But at the end of the day, they have a good young core. They're bringing in these sort of mercenary pitchers, and I sort of liken it to what the 90s Yankees did. They built a good young core with Jeter, Posada, obviously some of these greats. And then they brought in pitchers from the outside. They brought in Clemens. They brought in Cone. They brought in Wells. And I think they're doing a similar sort of build. And I can appreciate that.
But it all started with Jimmy Key.
Exactly, Jimmy Key, baby.
All right, is Drew Pomeranz?
Jimmy Key.
Shout out Jimmy Key. Is Drew Pomeranz still on this team and in this rotation?
I think he's going to slide in as the 5 guy. I don't believe in Stephen Wright. I think the Stephen Wright thing was a 1-year pop-up. He's got a shoulder issue. He looks like he should be like a plumber or a crossing guard or something. I mean, the guy looks like he downs a couple of donuts and bear claws every single morning before he gets out there and throws a knuckleball, So I think that was a nice story, but I don't see Stephen Wright playing in a big factor. I think Buchholz is probably going to get moved if they can package him for something. And Buchholz was in the bullpen last year as well. I think when you consider that they gave up Anderson Espinoza, a top 10 pitching prospect in the game, arguably the best arm in their system, though I will say I always was a bigger Kopech fan, especially as he's made the move over the last year. He's progressed beyond Espinoza. But regardless, I think they invested too much in Pomeranz to turn him into a 7th inning guy.
Well, it was a rhetorical question, but thank you for that extended answer. I also wanted to point out, and that was just kind of the wow factor of how deep this rotation is. That's not even including Eduardo Rodriguez, who is still just scratching the surface of what he can be as a power left-handed arm. So this team is stacked. Tehol, you buying into it? Is this a 96-win team as the over-under? And I'm only going 96 because we were referencing my old school Yankees.
I'm going all in on this year. I think they're going to get 100. My boy Panda is back. He's off the Twinkie diet. He's back, loaded up, ready to go. Shaw's out of there. It's just kind of the annoying, lame dude I'd see out there like, God, can we get this guy to the lineup? He's boring me to death, but I don't want to ever see him play baseball again. We got Moreland, similar type, but a little superior in my opinion. It's nasty. Big Pop. Why don't we just get Big Poppy to come back? It's almost like he did the farewell thing, so it's like he has to stay away. How could you not come back after you played that well last year and you have this kind of a squad? Granted, they got to cut a little salary to stay under that thing. So that's why I think maybe they give away Buchholz maybe to the Mariners or something, even though I don't even want him because he's injured 75% of the time. He never showed out. Him and Lester were supposed to coming up at the same time, both legends. Lester's a legend for Puyallup, Washington, and now Buchholz is just nobody. He did throw a no-hitter or something at one point, but nobody remembers that. They remember John Lester, the hero from Tacoma, Washington, World Series winner, World Series MVP, legend, former freshman, All-State as player of the year as a true freshman in baseball. I mean, Let's be real. Who's Clay Buchholz?
Right. So you got them winning 100 games and the AL representative in the World Series?
Without a doubt.
All right.
Barring injury.
I'm sure that makes Ralph happy. So that's gonna wrap it up for the Red Sox.